Hi everyone, welcome to Gnan Cloud Garage. In this session, I'm going to talk about how to add ESXi host to vCenter server. Before going to understand how we are going to add the ESX to vCenter, let's quickly recall the basics. What is an ESXi host and what is vCenter server? And then I will show you how we can add the ESXi host to vCenter server. And finally, I will talk about what are the ESXi host use cases in vCenter server 8.0. And let's start familiarizing the new logos for the vSphere host client and vCenter. VMware started giving the new logo. This is the new logo, and this logo is still using within our vCenter server, and uh, and also the vCenter. When we log in, we can see this icon. And to install the ESX server, we need a one physical server. I'm taking the HPE compute node. On top of that, we can install the ESX server, and when we log into vCenter server, our ESXi host icon is looks like this. Okay, so let's start with the first point. What is an ESXi host? So as we know, ESXi host is a type 1 hypervisor. In other words, as from the VMware, we can call it as ESXi host is a server that uses virtualization software such as ESXi to run virtual machines. And virtualization means it is a technology, it allows you to transform hardware into software. That means if we have a hardware running with the CPU, memory, disk, and AC, four key components. These components, when it comes to the virtualization, it become as a software components like virtual CPU, virtual disk, virtual memory, and virtual network interface card. So that point only, another words, host provides the CPU and memory resources that virtual machine use. So for all the virtual machine, the resources are using from the ESXi host only, it will provide all the resources. Okay. Now, to install the ESXi host, we need a physical hardware. For an easy understanding, I took the three ESXi host example, and we have a HPE DL380 nodes. Okay, how the physical node looks like it. This is the physical node, how it looks like. On top of these three nodes, we install the ESX3, ESXs, ESX1, ES2, and 3, and running with a ESX8 operating system. Once the ESX is installed, it allows you to create multiple virtual machines, and same way ESX2 and ESX3. To manage all these ESXi hosts, not only three, even if you have 300 plus or 3000 plus ESX, to manage all the n number of ESXi hosts, we need a vCenter server. In short form, we call it as VC or VCSA, vCenter Server Appliance. And according to VMware vCenter is an advanced server management software that provides a centralized platform for controlling vSphere environment, that means ESX and virtual machines, for visibility across hybrid clouds. Okay, so this is the what is ESXi host and what is vCenter server information. Now let me show you how to add ESXi hosts. And in our lab, we have three ESXi hosts. So I will show you three hosts, how we can add it to the vCenter server. So let's quickly log into our lab system and log into our vCenter server. So vCenter server login is administrator @ vSphere.local and assign the password. Okay, so once we log into the vCenter server, see we have vCenter name, and under the vCenter, we in our previous session we created a data center, but currently there is no ESXi host. So to add the ESXi host, right click the data center and add the ESXi host. And even if you want to add the host directly under the vCenter level, it won't allow. vCenter level, we can create only data center, and we can add the ESXi host only under the either data center we can add, or we can add the host under the cluster. Okay, but in this session I'm showing you the how to add the host. Okay, so while adding the host, we can enter the specific ESXi host name or IP address. Let's say we have the ESXi host, three ESXi hosts here. I will show you the host names. We can copy either ESXi host name or IP address, and let me log into other host. and let me log into the third host as well. So let's enter the ESXi host name. Let's say I'm using the ESXi host name, ESXi 01.anpslab.com, and enter the login credentials. Let's say root and password, and click on next. And whatever the VMs are running on this host, all will be added automatically. I'm just refreshing this ESX page 2 and ESX3 page also. Let me log in. See, all the three ESX are able to connect individually. The same three hosts, we are going to add it under the vCenter. ESX2, okay, and ESX3. Maybe a password is incorrect or something. I think it's taking longer time. Let me cancel and re-add. Right click the data center, add host, and choose the ESX host name. And let me re-enter the password. Okay, it's taking time to connect the ESXi host. In the meantime, let me check in the server host entries. Okay, we already entered the host entries already in the host file. Okay, so no issues. Let me connect the vCenter from the another tab. Okay, I'm trying to add one more host. Let's choose the host name as ESX2 and enter the login credentials, root and password. Okay, it's saying cannot connect the network. Okay, let's back and we can try with the IP address. So the IP address is 192.168.243.41. So it's not connecting using the host name, maybe the DNS entries. Okay, I will check it. So now click on next. Let me double check the DNS entry one more time. Yeah, IP address and host names are correct. Okay. Click on next. Lockdown mode, keep it disabled and finish. So host name adding is in progress. And same way, even the second one also somehow host name having error message. Maybe the DNS record I needs to be updated. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm adding the one more host, ESX2, and the IP address ends with 42, and login credentials, root, and password. So click on S, next, 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 and finish. So second host adding is in progress. And similarly for third ESXi host, right click the data center, add host, and we can enter the host IP address, let's say 43, and login credentials. So we can choose the IP username, root, and password. Next, next, and lockdown mode, keep it disabled. Next, it is going under the data center. Okay, so first two hosts are completed and third host adding is in progress. So it is and exactly 90% going to finish. Okay, when add the ESXi host to vCenter, it will start the vCenter agent service on ESXi host. Each individual host vCenter agent is started. Okay, and ESX 41 running with 2 VMs and 42 currently no VMs and 43 also no VMs. Now this three portion we understand how we can add the ESXi host to vCenter. So this point is clear. Let's talk about another point. What are the ESXi host use cases in vCenter 8.0? So the use cases are mainly, and even these icons now we are familiar. If you see this icon, we can see within our, when I select the ESXi host summary tab, this is the icon. So same icon, I keep it here. And our host is running on HPE compute node. Just for our easy understanding, to run the ESX host, we need a one physical node. And vSphere, we can see within our vCenter server, when I select vCenter, the logo is comes under vSphere logo. Okay, and this is a vSphere host client or vCenter server. Nowadays, VMware is representing with this new icon. This icon, we can see it from here, or even if when you connect to vCenter, see get vCenter server, the icon is new icon here. Okay, and even if I log out also, we can verify the new icon started. Okay, this is the new icons. Okay, that's why we start familiarizing with our previous icon and also the new icons. And what are the ESXi 8.0 host use cases in vCenter 8.0? Let's start with the first use case. So first use case is add it under vCenter data center. So just now within our lab system under data center, we have added a 3 ESXi host. So if you select the data center, we can see host count is increased to 3. Okay, so this is only the first use case. And another use case is add it to the vCenter cluster. vCenter cluster means we have to create one cluster. Let's say I'm not creating as any name and all, just for our easy understanding without any configuration. I just created a one empty cluster. So when we create a cluster, see in our recent task, it says create cluster is in progress. So create cluster in progress completed. See within this new cluster, currently there is no host. Do you have few minutes to, okay, this feedback and all we can cancel. So currently within our cluster, there is no ESXi host. Okay, even cluster icon, this is the cluster icon. If you want to add the ESXi host to the cluster, just select the host and drag and drop to the cluster. See the 43 host is now running under the cluster. It is also added whatever the CPU we have under the host, that host resources added to the cluster. So the same use case I mentioned here. Not only under data center, we can add ESXi host to the cluster also. Okay, and third use case is add it as a storage node in HCI environment. HCI means hyper converged infrastructure. One example is VMware HCI environment. We call it as virtual SAN. Each ESXi host have some hard drives. Grouping of all these hard drive, we make it as a storage node. Suppose in this diagram we have a two node virtual SAN. Even within this two node cluster, if you want to add a one more node as a storage node, that is also possible. So this is the use case 3. Okay, and another use case is keep it as a standby node. Let's say in our lab environment, we have a 3 ESXi host. Suppose in future, we are not sure when this 3 ESXi host resource may full. If we have a capacity management plan for the upcoming month or next 2 months, so during that time, we have to keep one host is in a standby node. So this standby host, we keep it within under data center, or we can keep it aside, and we are not using that host, we keep it as a standby host. Whenever we need additional resources, we can use that standby host wherever it is necessary. Let's say in our lab we have one new cluster. Suppose in the production environment we may have multiple clusters, few are test cluster, few development cluster, few production cluster. This standby host will help us whenever any production cluster resources are full. During that scenario, we can use this standby host to the production cluster. Okay, that is also one important use case. Most of the production environment, it recommend to keep minimally one standby host. If you keep two hosts also, it's a best practice. But a minimum recommendation from VMware, we should keep one host always as a standby. We are not sure when any of the ESXi hosts may encounter with any hardware issue or any of the unexpected errors. Okay, and another point. Use case 5. Add two ESXi hosts to the vCenter stretched cluster. Normally, stretched cluster concept will comes under the two different sites. Let's say we have site A and site B. Within these two sites, if you want to provide a 100% availability or near zero RTO, near zero RPO scenarios, VMware recommend to configure stretch cluster. During the stretch cluster scenario, we can configure in a multiple ways. Either we can configure vSAN stretch cluster, or we can configure Hewlett Packard Enterprise HPE also providing some storages using Alletra 9K, or using the storage boxes also we can configure the stretch cluster. But the scenario is when we are planning to add the ESXi host to stretch cluster, we should add minimally two hosts on the both sides. Suppose site A, if you are planning to add one extra node or extra ESXi host, the same node we can also, same configuration of node, we should add it on a site B also. That means for stretch cluster, the recommendation to add ESXi host not the one, we always add two ESXi hosts. Suppose in our site A we have three host cluster, and site B also we have three host cluster. These three hosts we combine into a stretch cluster. Total host count is 6 hosts. But when we are planning to add increase the additional node, we cannot add a one node. We always recommend to add for stretch cluster two node. One node is at site A, one node is at the site B. Or one node, in other words, some organization may have DC1, DC2. So one node at DC1, another node in a DC2. Okay, when we are in a stretch clustered environment. So these are all the 5 main key use cases in our ESXi host, how we are going to use in a vCenter level. Okay, hope you understand all these points. That's it. Thank you. If you're watching this video first time, please do view, like, share, and subscribe to the Gnan Cloud Garage channel. If you're already subscribed, I appreciate all your support. Bye for now.